With 2023 coming to a close, I thought this would be a great time to do a video going over my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2024. So as it is with any year, all of these movies on this list are subject to change. They can go up and down my list as the weeks and months go on. Maybe there's like new trailers that release, maybe new movies get revealed, or maybe some of these movies get delayed and they won't even release this year. Like there's tons of things that can happen. This is just my current list. What are the movies I'm most anticipated for in this very moment? And because of how movies are, with them not really being announced that far in advance, unless they're like sequels or franchise related movies, you're gonna see mostly franchise movies on this list. There's not a lot of original films here, and obviously it's hard to be excited for a movie that's original because, I mean, how can you get excited for it without knowing anything about it? Usually I need a trailer or at least knowing, you know, what director is working on the project or like what actors are in it to actually get excited for it. So just expect that right off the bat. Usually these lists are full of franchise movies. Starting off with some honorable mentions, I actually have quite a lot because there's a lot of movies coming out next year that I'm actually really looking forward to. So first of all, I got Mickey 17, and I don't know anything about this movie other than the fact that it is directed by Bong Joon-ho. Not sure if I'm saying that name right, but he is the director behind Parasite and Snowpiercer, which are two movies I really love. So this is just automatically a movie I'm looking forward to because of that, and Robert Pattinson will be playing the main character here. Despite Saw 10 being so good, Saw 11 did not make my top 10, but I'm still really looking forward to it. I don't feel like it's going to live up to what Saw 10 was. I feel like they're getting kind of, you know, too excited with their Saw movies recently because, you know, this one did really well. A lot of people loved Saw 10, but I feel like them jumping to do Saw 11 so soon after, I feel like it's going to end up being not that great, but I'm still looking forward to it nonetheless. Ballerina, which is of course a movie within the John Wick universe, going to be starring Ana de Armas. Looking forward to that, but the director hasn't done anything that I've personally seen before, so I can't really get too excited for how this movie's actually going to be like, but the premise itself is still somewhat exciting. Love Lies Bleeding is a movie I've been constantly seeing trailers for in the theaters recently. It's an A24 film starring Kristen Stewart, and the trailers looked actually really interesting, so definitely going to be adding that to my watch list for next year. I believe that one releases in March. Venom 3 I'm looking forward to, but at the same time, I can't be that excited just because it's not R-rated. Like, that's enough for me to not be nearly as excited as I would have been otherwise. I do enjoy the first two Venom movies, but neither of them are like complete, you know, amazing films or anything like that. They're just decent comic book movies that I can get a kick out of, but I've really never felt like they're like incredible or anything like that. And I'm really hoping this one could do something a lot more interesting, but I feel like it's going to be some of the same stuff we've been dealing with before. So I'm at least excited for it, but not nearly as much as I would have been if maybe we got an R rating for it, or if there was just something announced about it that was going to be more interesting than just having another Venom movie. Like, let's say Andrew Garfield ends up showing up as Spider-Man in it. Then I'm definitely going to be excited for it if that's the case. Inside Out 2, really looking forward to that because I really enjoyed the first Inside Out, but also I haven't really liked many recent Pixar movies. There's been some decent ones, but maybe I'm just kind of grown out of that. I don't think those movies interest me as much as they used to. I'm not saying you can't enjoy them when you're older, but for me, I just haven't really enjoyed many of the recent ones. So although I'm looking forward to it, it's definitely not in my top 10. Dune Part 2, I'm looking forward to, but at the same time, it's not like something I'm like really itching to see because, I mean, I didn't love the first Dune. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good movie, but it was more about the visual aspects of it and the technical side of it. I don't think I was really that immersed into the universe just yet. Maybe the sequel could do a lot more for me. Maybe I can get a lot more interested in the universe from this, but from the first one, it didn't really do enough for me to be that excited for the sequel. And then the last honorable mention is going to be Kraven the Hunter, which I'm really excited for it just because of the R rating, but everything I've heard from a story perspective sounds kind of Like, I'm just not looking forward to them turning Kraven into a character that's not really meant to be what Kraven is. And I'm always open to different, you know, adaptations of characters. I don't have to have the exact same adaptation of the character for it to work, but at the same time, that's the thing that makes Kraven so interesting, is the character that he was originally, and this does not seem like it's going to be that whatsoever. Could it be something interesting in its own right? Sure, but I'm just not sure, especially after Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 having a great portrayal of Kraven, in my opinion. I really think they're going to have to do something interesting here for me to be that invested in it. Oh, actually, I got one more honorable mention. Nosferatu, which is directed by Robert Eggers. Now, this is one that I'm just looking forward to because it just sounds like it's going to be a really weird, crazy movie. It's got a really good cast with Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Willem Dafoe, which is a just great cast right there, and it's a vampire movie, so there's definitely a lot to look forward to there. In number 10 spot, I've actually got a tie between two movies. I didn't know which one I wanted to include in the top 10, so I just threw them both in there, and they're kind of similar movies. So this is going to be Trap as well as The Watchers. Now, both of these movies have a big similarity because one of them is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the other one's going to be directed by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. So yeah, connected kind of somewhat there. I don't really know much about them. I just know they're going to be horror films, and I really love M. Night Shyamalan's directing. I've enjoyed majority of his films that I've seen, so I have no reason not to believe this is also probably going to be a decent horror movie, and I'm excited to see what his daughter can do because it will be her first movie. So if it's going to be cool, I'm excited for it. The Watchers does have a description. It's about a 20-year-old artist who gets stranded in an extensive, immaculate forest in Western Ireland, and after finding shelter, she becomes trapped alongside three strangers stalked by mysterious creatures each night. Sounds cool to me. I'm looking forward to that one. And then the other movie is Trap, which we don't really know anything about it, but Trap sounds kind of interesting. So I don't know. Just looking forward to seeing these because, like I said, this year I feel like hasn't had the best horror movies ever. I'm really itching for like a really good new horror film. This year was kind of lacking quite a bit, so definitely looking forward to these. In number 9 spot, I've got Alien Romulus, the new Alien movie, the new Alien movie directed by Fede Alvarez. Now, this one I'm really looking forward to because this director directed Don't Breathe and Evil Dead 2013, which are two movies I really enjoy, especially Evil Dead 2013. That is such a great film, and I feel like this is gonna be an exciting movie. I don't know. I haven't seen the two recent Alien films. I will be watching those closer to the release of this film. This releases in August, so I'm sure sometime in July I'll react to those two Alien films I haven't seen yet, but I have seen the other ones, like the first one, Aliens. I've even seen Alien 3 and Alien 4, and of course Alien vs. Predator and all those movies. So I just want to see a new Alien movie though. Like, I'm excited to see what it could be like, and because I really do love his directing, I feel like it's probably going to be a decent film, but who knows, maybe it could turn out being a train wreck. But we don't really know much about the plot or anything like that, but at the very least we know we're going to be getting some cool alien monster shit, and that's what I want to see. Sticking with the theme, we got more horror movies on this list. There's actually quite a few horror films here. Smile 2 is in the number 8 spot. So the first Smile released last year, and if you guys watched my rankings of my favorite horror movies of 2022, it was actually in my ranking, I believe in the number like 3 spot. It was somewhere in the top 5, I believe. And yes, that's because it was probably one of my favorite horror movies of the past few years. It was actually really surprising because I thought it was going to be a really shitty movie. I feel like this ended up being actually really good. Like, it had a really good style to it. I thought the scares were genuinely like terrifying. There was genuinely some horrifying imagery there. It was a hard movie to watch in some scenes, to be honest. So I'm really looking forward to what they can do for a sequel. I never really thought that a sequel would have been possible, but I'm curious to see what it could possibly be. It's the same director as the first one as well. They didn't change it up, so hopefully he's able to find some sort of interesting story to tell with this, I guess, idea, this concept, and I guess we'll have to wait and see. In number 7 spot, another horror movie, Terrifier 3. Okay, is this the last horror movie here? Maybe got one more after this, but definitely looking forward to Terrifier 3 because Terrifier 2 was easily one of the most surprising movies I've ever watched in my entire life, because the first Terrifier I never really thought was that great. I always thought it was fine. It was okay. It was average, whatever. It was just kind of there for the gore, and the story did not give a shit about. The characters did not give a shit about. Pretty much didn't care about anything other than, okay, it had a couple of cool gory kills. Terrifier 2, on the other hand, had the gore, had all that nasty stuff, but it also genuinely had some decent characters and a decent, not great, decent story. So if this one can give us a much better story, like if it can improve on the story tenfold and keep that gore and the style, especially with the really cool style Terrifier 2 went with like all the 80s synth music that was playing throughout the movie, and just some really good shots. Like I really enjoyed how this movie was directed, but this one's likely going to be even a higher budget than the first two. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Damien Leone is going to be able to do with this. It is going to be set during Christmas as well, which just gives it some extra flair. I guess we're going to be getting a Christmas horror movie with this. And I don't know, I'm just looking forward to what they can do with it. In number 6 spot, I've got Gladiator 2, which is releasing in November. Now, Gladiator 2 is going to be directed by Ridley Scott, of course, And I actually haven't seen his recent film, Napoleon. I didn't get a chance to, unfortunately. I probably won't get a chance to, but I didn't hear great things about it. I also heard some great things from other people, but it's not gonna really change my excitement for this movie. I don't think he's just suddenly just not gonna have a good, directing style anymore just because some people didn't like his recent film. But The First Gladiator is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's such a great story. It's such a well-made movie. And this one is going to be following up with Lucius, the son of Maximus's love, Lucia? I forget how you say her name. But of course, because, spoiler, if you haven't seen Gladiator, after Maximus's death, obviously you can't return him back into the sequel, but you can have Lucius here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to be about, because I have no idea what he's actually going to be up to. But I hope it's some similar types of, Gladiator stuff. I hope he actually gets into the Gladiator games as well. I hope there's a good style to it. I hope there's really a good feel to it. I believe Paul Mescal is playing Lucius here. I know Joseph Quinn and Pedro Pascal are also going to be in this movie, so hopefully they have cool roles in it. But I feel like there's a lot you can do with a Gladiator sequel. A lot of people thought this made no sense to make a sequel to it, and yeah, you could argue like, okay, it didn't need a sequel, but does that really matter? If they could do something interesting with it, I'm excited to see what they can do. In number 5 spot, I've got A Quiet Place Day One. So A Quiet Place is one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. A lot of people won't call it a franchise because there's only been 2 of them, but that's whatever. It's enough to call it a franchise for me. I love those movies though. Both of them I gave a 5 out of 5. They're perfect horror films in my opinion. Actually, I think they're both within my top 15 horror movies of all time. They're great movies, essentially. So when I heard they're making a prequel with other characters, it's going to be all about the first day of this, outbreak with these creatures, I got really excited. I would love to see A Quiet Place Part 3 as well. I'm not sure if that's still in the works or not, but regardless, having another movie, like a spin-off essentially, I'm looking forward to. I believe Joseph Quinn is also going to be in this, so he's going to be Gladiator 2 as well as A Quiet Place Day One. And I'm not sure who else is going to be in it. I believe the actress from Us is going to be in it as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing her. And the director, I believe he directed the movie Pig, which I have never seen before, but I heard good things about it, so maybe he's going to, do a decent job with this movie. But I love the universe of A Quiet Place. I think the creatures are one of the most interesting creature designs of any fictional universe I've ever seen. So I would love to see more of that. I would love to see more of the interesting directing style you can do with creatures that you have to be 100% quiet around. You have to just move really slowly and not make any noise. And there's so many interesting sequences, so many interesting conflicts you can make with a concept like that. In number 4 spot, I've got Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. So this is one of the only movies on this list where we do currently have a trailer for, which is interesting because I feel like last year when I did my most anticipated list, I had a lot of trailers for a lot of the movies that was coming out. But now it's like, there's not a lot of trailers released for these movies yet, unfortunately. So really not much to go off of for a lot of them. But this one, we actually do have a lot to go off of. We actually can see what it's going to look like. And I loved the Mad Max Fury Road from 2015. And of course, George Miller is returning to direct this as well. It's a prequel with Furiosa. It's also going to have Chris Hemsworth as the villain. And it looks just as interesting, just as stylish, just as creative and unique as Mad Max Fury Road was. So as long as it can retain the same story and writing quality of that as well, I'm all on board. I'm all on board for this one. I feel like it's going to be a damn good time, and I can't wait to see it. Now, getting to the top 3 in the number 3 spot, these 3 movies are by far my most anticipated. There's a pretty big jump between 4 and 3. Pretty much these 3 are the ones that I will be there as soon as I possibly can, 100%. There's nothing stopping me from seeing it day one. So the number 3 spot is going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So this is directed by Wes Ball, and he directed the Maze Runner films. So we're not going to be getting Matt Reeves again, which of course he did the last 2 Planet of the Apes movies from the trilogy. But I don't really care because the trailer looked amazing. It was a quick teaser trailer, didn't show too much, but what it did show, you can tell they're going to retain that same quality as the recent films. Are they going to retain the same writing quality though? That's up to, whether or not, the talent behind this movie can do that, but hopefully it can be just as good, because I need another one of these amazing movies, because I didn't get to watch those in the theaters. I watched those later on this channel. Actually, I reacted to them, but I didn't get to see them in the theaters. So I'm really hoping to get to see this on the big screen, maybe hopefully IMAX, and just I want to take it all in because they're really good looking movies. The motion capture for The Apes looks incredible, and I don't know what the story is going to be about. I know it's following some character that's within Caesar's bloodline, I believe. A lot of people are saying it's not, but it looks so much like Caesar to the point where I feel like it has to be maybe like a great grandchild or something like that. It's not his son, but it's further down the line, and I hope there's a lot of stuff about the humans there as well, because of course they're going to be farther into the future now, so closer to where humans are essentially slaves to this world. They're not going to have much of any power necessarily, and I'm really curious to see how that's going to work. I'm sure I'll watch some of the other older Planet of the Apes movies leading up to when this comes out, because I haven't seen all of them. I've only seen that recent trilogy, so I'd love to see the original and some of the other ones before then. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to check those out whenever I get to it. In the number 2 spot is going to be Deadpool 3, which is releasing in July. Now this is a movie that's been kind of switched around quite a bit in terms of when it's going to release. I actually believe it was originally going to be released a bit later and actually got pushed up a bit, and then it got pushed back even again. It's keep going back and forth because different things like the strikes and the pandemic from before. But this is one I've been looking forward to for a while, ever since it was announced that Hugh Jackman was going to be returning as Wolverine in it. Part of me was a bit worried because obviously he got such a great send-off in Logan. Like, do we really need to bring him back? But you're going to have a different version of him. It's going to be some multiversal type thing. I don't think it's going to affect Logan as a film. It's its own thing. You can watch that and just have the same exact experience you've always had watching that movie. I don't think that has to affect how this movie's going to be. But I think it really depends on the story here, because we know it's going to have a lot of cameos. It's going to have a lot of nostalgia bait, a lot of old characters coming back, especially from the X-Men movies. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the old Fantastic Four characters show up. It's going to be one of those, cameo fest movies with a lot of callbacks. I know people hate those. I don't hate those as long as the story itself is still really good and doesn't rely on those cameos. It doesn't rely on the nostalgia. Instead, it still has just an interesting plot together with itself. I've heard a lot of leaks of what the plot's supposed to be about. I'm not sure what's true or not, but some of it sounds kind of interesting. Like it's going to be some sort of thing where they're trying to recruit the best versions of certain characters for Secret Wars. A lot of people are saying it's going to lead to Secret Wars, which is kind of surprising that a Deadpool movie would lead to Secret Wars, but I guess it could happen. Of course, we've seen some behind the scenes footage from it. There's been a lot of behind the scenes leaks. We've seen what the costumes look like. They look amazing. We've seen some scenes of, Wolverine and Deadpool going at it straight up. So there's going to be a lot of enjoyable moments in this movie. I'm sure it's going to be one of those crowd pleasing times. Is it going to be just a great movie in and of itself, though? We'll have to wait and see. It really just depends on how good the writing is. In number 1 spot is easily going to be Joker 2. Now, currently, Joker 2 has this separate title called Folled El Dukes. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's the thing. I really hope they don't keep the title because I'm just not going to know how to pronounce it. I'm sure eventually I'll learn how to pronounce it and it won't be a problem anymore. But for now, we're just going to have to just... I probably butchered it, but Joker 2 is easily my most anticipated movie of this year. It's also probably my most anticipated movie of all time. Not even joking when I say that. The first Joker is my favorite movie of all time. I know a lot of people, get surprised when I say that, but that's just the case. So, of course, when I heard there's going to be a sequel, I got really excited. Now, when they announced it was going to be a musical, that's when my excitement immediately just dipped, and I was like, okay, this is probably not going to be what I wanted it to be. But then I got to thinking, I started using my brain a little bit, started thinking about what this could mean, and especially when I learned that Lady Gaga was going to be playing Harley Quinn, I started thinking they could actually do something really interesting with this. And my excitement for this movie solely depends on how the musical aspects are handled. If the musical aspects are handled in a way where it's basically like Harley Quinn's visions or hallucinations, then that'll be really cool. That'll actually be something that I think will make the musical aspect make sense. And I thought that was going to probably be the case because Harley Quinn's likely going to be written as an aspiring singer, just like Arthur in the first Joker was written as an aspiring comedian. It makes perfect sense to have both of them be like those types of people. And so having her have these dream sequences where she's singing and, running around, I think that's the musical aspect we're going to have here. And we've already seen some behind the scenes footage of her singing actual songs. She's not making up, it's not going to be like a typical musical where the people are singing as they just go along their day. Because no, that would be ridiculous. We're not going to have, people breaking out into dance sequences just randomly. It's going to be all within her visions and her hallucinations. Now that could work and be really interesting. Of course, they have to also just tell a good story to begin with, but because the exact same writing team as the first one, the exact same director with Todd Phillips, the exact same composer, like we have all of the people returning for this, I have high hopes for it that it's going to be maybe not better than the first one, but at least close to as good as it. And that's all I really could ask for at this point. If it was a completely new team, a new director, a new composer, new writers, then I probably wouldn't have much excitement for it. But because that's not the case, because it actually is going to be everyone who was in the first one returning, I have no reason not to be excited for it. And of course, Joaquin Phoenix, just getting to see more of his version of Joker will be really interesting. I know a lot of people were arguing that, oh, we don't need this. And to that I say, we don't need any sequels. We really don't. Like, there's no movie where I feel like we need to have a sequel from it. No, usually it's just, they just happen to do a sequel, and that's fine. If they have a story to tell, why not do it? And if it's interesting, then I'm all for it. And I really think if this has proper marketing, and they've already started teasing it even last year. So if they market it a ton in 2024, it could make $1 billion just like the first one did. And I'm just, man, it's gonna be an exciting day when that movie finally comes. I believe it's releasing in October, so I cannot wait for it. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. What are your most anticipated movies of 2024? I would love to hear your thoughts. And yes, I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.